Hey everybody, it's me, Margaret. Don't have much to show this week, but I've got lots to talk about regarding Christmas. So I'm going to make my tea here and we will sit down and have a chat. Well, it is a really yucky day outside and I usually like to sit outside, but I've let time get away from me. Plus I had to go pick up poor Thomas from school. He's over there on the couch, not feeling well at all. And so I'm kind of throwing this together here at the kitchen table, or rather the kitchen island. And I just had some thoughts that have been rolling around in my head. One of the things that's been on my mind that I've been wanting to talk about is how much fun I've been having with the Secret Santa game, what do you call that, that Erin has organized on her Ravelry group, Gimme Yarn 418. Her group is called TGIF, thank God it's finished. And of course it's closed now, you can't jump in on that, but we've all gotten our Secret Santas and I'm having the best time finding stuff, making stuff, getting my package ready for my recipient. Can't say my Santa, I'm the Santa, right? So anyway, it's been really fun, and it reminded me, doing all this in secret, reminded me of what I used to do with my big kids when they were little. I haven't had the opportunity to do it with Thomas yet because we are in a completely different location, but we'll figure out how to make it work. But you know, Christmas and giving is really, the proper attitude needs to be giving without expecting something in return. And as human beings, that's so hard for us sometimes, and so you want to start teaching it to your kids at a young age. So do you remember the old game when you were a kid? I didn't do this, but it happened to me, called Ding Dong Ditch, where you'd ring somebody's doorbell and then you'd run and hide. Of course, they'd go to the door and nobody would be there. Okay, well, we would do this at Christmas time, but we would leave packages at the door, and it would not say who it was from or anything. So we'd just put little Dollar Tree trinkets or things that we made and whatever, and wrap them all up and just do that sometime before Christmas so that it would just be a fun activity. And of course, never put our names on it. And it's teaching the kids how fun it is to give without expecting anything in return. It was a blast. And then of course we'd hear the next day, somebody rang our doorbell and they left us presents, and they'd be so excited and they'd have that satisfaction of just giving. So that's really kind of a neat thing. Another thing that leads to that same frame of thought is what you get for Christmas. For example, we are incredibly blessed, and when you get to be our age too, and I'm sure you know this, if you have to give to parents or grandparents or something like that, it's really hard because we tend to buy what we want, and you know, it's really hard to tell someone some ideas of what we want for Christmas. So what for years we've been saying, donate to either one of our favorite charities or one of your favorite charities. Just donate for us, you know, and that would be a great thing. So one charity in particular that is a really great one for us yarn lovers would be Heifer International. You can go to their website, and I'll put a link down below to see what it's all about. But essentially, they'll take communities in like third world countries where people really have nothing, and they will send a volunteer person out there with, say, a sheep or a goat or something that is, or a heifer, because it's called Heifer International, something that is indigenous to their terrain, their area. And then they teach them how to care for this animal and how to build a business from this animal. You know, like sheep would be obvious because we all know about yarn and wool and whatever, but a goat, you know, the goat hair also can be turned into yarn and different fabrics and sold for them, goat's milk, goat's cheese, things like that. And they stay with these people, these communities, for a year, teaching and training and helping them to set up a business. So they turn a community that virtually has nothing into one that can sustain itself. And I'll put a link to this video where Alton Brown explains how the communities pass on baby goats or whatever, teach other communities how to sustain this. And some of the gifts you can give are kind of, it seems funny until you actually learn a lot about the program, but you can actually give a goat to a family or whatever. And of course you do that monetarily. So Thomas had a great experience this year. His 8th grade class did an overnight trip to the Heifer International Ranch in Arkansas. And what they have is a bunch of mock living conditions of different parts of the world, these poor areas. And Thomas, where were you? What community did you live in at Heifer International? Oh yes, Thailand. But it had different things. So you drew randomly and you became part of a family, which would be people in your group. And some people were refugees, what it would be like just to leave everything behind and come to a new country. And once you got your family and your assignment of where you were from, you got a basic set of supplies. And it might be a bucket with maybe a little rice in it. Only one place had water. I forget what all the supplies had. Maybe some potatoes, carrots, just a few things like that. And what you had to do was barter. I mean, this was a 24-hour experience. And you had to barter with other members of communities. How can I help you? Well, this person only had a working stove over here, this family. And these people had the water. And these people had rice, but you had carrots. So you could get together and work. Well, the poor refugees had nothing. And if you drew refugee, you were not allowed to speak either, because generally a refugee comes to the country not knowing the language. And so they did relax the rules because these kids have had 2 years of foreign language, so they're running around with their, they said they could find someone who spoke the foreign language that they were learning about, so it's kind of funny to try to hear kids speak Latin to one another, or French, or, but anyway. But it was a tremendous experience. They had to sleep on floors. Some of them were sleeping on cold dirt, but for 24 hours, our little blessed children could certainly handle that, and they really got a different perspective of what it's like globally, not in our comfortable little world where we live. But that is a wonderful thing. And I think I have another similar company that just sent us something. Hang on, I'll go see. Yeah, this is it. It's World Vision. You may have seen that on TV before. It's pretty much the same thing as Heifer International. I am just more familiar with Heifer International. But here you can buy a goat and 2 chickens for $100, or a goat for $75, 2 chickens for $25. They have something in every budget. So, I would love it if people, instead of giving us presents, would actually do something like this, because that would make a difference. Instead of, sometimes you get presents you really don't care for or won't use, and why do you want that when you could actually have those people give their money in a productive way? I don't know, just a thought. Back in 2012, December 11th to be exact, episode 13, I shared with y'all one of the videos that I like to watch every year by that travel guru Rick Steves, talking about the Christmas traditions in Europe. And here, let me show you this clip from then. I also wanted to share with y'all something Christmassy that I like to watch every year, and it happens to be on YouTube for free. It's Rick Steves' Christmas in Europe. Rick Steves is a travel expert guy, and he travels all the way through Europe doing where you learn about the cultures and how other people celebrate Christmas. And it's really, really interesting, and the sights and sounds are wonderful. So I'm going to put a link, because he's got it as a playlist on his YouTube channel. And I'm going to put a link down there for those of you who like to learn like I do. I just love learning new things. It starts out, because this is not specifically a Christian show, it's a travel show. And so he starts out by telling the story of the birth of Christ through the gorgeous Renaissance art that depict these things in different ways. But it's also interesting for those of you who are Christian and who have grown up Christian. You probably already know that experts don't believe that Jesus was actually born on the 25th. As a matter of fact, they tend to think he was born in the spring or summer, because the shepherds were out in the field. But the reason why that date was chosen was because this wonderful, huge Bacchanalia type fest was going on during that time by the pagans. And so the church decided, I think we will just put Christian celebration, because people weren't going to stop celebrating. So they said, I think we'll just park Christmas right here in the middle of this. So you'll find, and he tells you some of these things, that a lot of our traditions, like evergreens and whatnot, are taken from the original pagan celebrations, but we take them and use them to represent something else in our faith. But mainly, I just think the whole learning about culture and the history of traditions and whatever is so interesting. So just thought I'd share that tidbit. Merry Christmas. And this year I'm going to add to that. I've actually made a Christmas playlist of some videos on YouTube that I like to watch. They're documentaries, but very interesting documentaries with pictures and all that kind of stuff. I'm very fond of documentaries, and I watch boring ones, but these are not. These are very interesting. The historians are very knowledgeable, but unfortunately they're not necessarily theologians. They're not necessarily as knowledgeable about the Bible as they ought to be, but that's not what it's about. It's about the history of Christmas. And it's just, we tend to think that, with the birth of Jesus, boom, we had Christmas. But no, it didn't happen that way at all. Christmas as we know it. But in one of them, in particular, Harry Smith, who was, I don't even know if he's still active on CBS, he was a big news announcer. He was the narrator of this, and he says, we all know the story. The poor couple with the pregnant wife were rudely rejected at the inn. And that's not how it goes at all. That's not biblical at all. The only thing we know is that there was no room at the inn. And we hear this all the time. We see people put on plays and stuff, and they make that poor innkeeper so grumpy and mean. We don't have any room at the inn. Go sleep in the stable. And we don't know that it was like that. And it makes me think about how easily gossip can be spread. The only information that we have is there was no room at the inn. So I got to thinking about that. Let's picture the situation here, okay? All right, who was in charge of the Holy Land at that time? Who was it ruled by? Oh, did you say Rome? Yes, you paid attention in school. Very good. This was when the Roman Empire was really, I don't think it was at its peak, but it was getting there. And so Caesar Augustus, who was in charge at that time, was ordering a census to be taken. And nowadays when we have to fill out census papers, I don't remember doing it. Gosh, 1990, I had to fill out a packet of information. And there are just so many easy ways. That was my biggest inconvenience, was to fill out the piece of paper. Big deal. And there was no census bureau in the Roman Empire, and so their way of doing it was you had to pack up your family, and you had to stop work, spend your own money, and travel back to your town of the family's origin. And I don't know how I decided how far you go back with that, how many great-grandfathers or whatever. I don't know that. But anyway, for Joseph, because he was the head of the family, they had to leave Nazareth and they had to go to Bethlehem. Now that was a 75-mile journey, so that was pretty long. You know, here we just jump in the car and zip out 75 miles and nothing flat. But of course back then it was all by foot. And historians tell us too that it was probably you were traveling around with a group of people, you know, because there was safety in numbers, because everybody was doing it. I mean, the Roman Empire said, we are going to have this census and this is the way it has to be done. And so travelers were everywhere, so now you know that's why the inn was full. You couldn't call ahead, you know, there was no picking up the phone to make a reservation or anything like that. So when they arrived there, the innkeeper was probably just exhausted from all the people that he was serving and knocking on the door every 5 minutes asking him if they had a room. And you know, he probably opened the door and there stood Joseph, and maybe he saw Mary. I'm not sure if he parked Mary over on the side somewhere or what, but you know, he said, oh, Bud, you know, I just don't have a room. There's nothing I can do for you. Maybe he said, you know what? Go around the corner and you can at least have shelter in the stable for your poor pregnant wife. Because we assume that Joseph poured out his heart and told the whole story. We don't know. All we know is that there was no room at the inn. So I always feel sorry for that poor innkeeper when I see him depicted as a mean old grumpus who slammed the door in Joseph's face. That may not have been the case at all. But we know that that was part of God's plan. Excuse me, because he was not a king of royal birth. You know, he was a king that was of the work of man, so to speak. So anyway, poor old innkeeper. So be sure to check the description box for that playlist if you're interested. It's several different stories about the history of Christmas put on from different people. One of them was by the Unwrapped people. You know, I think it's on the History Channel. Unwrapped, where they tell you how candy is made, or how tires, or I don't know, some kind of food, not tires, but some kind of food is made. Well, here they did History of Christmas Unwrapped, where they told you all the background. And it's very, very interesting. But essentially, the basis of Christmas is giving without expecting anything in return. That's exactly what our Savior was, is God's gift to us. We didn't deserve it, and yet we got it. And He expects nothing in return for this, just to follow Christ's teachings. That's it. So, to make a long story short, none of these things that I have linked are religious, so you're not going to get preached at or whatever. It's just the history of how our traditions have unfolded into what they are today. And speaking of traditions, you know, we hosted Thanksgiving here, and it went really well. We do host on a regular basis. And I told you I had made that Play-Doh, and it went over well. Here's a few pictures. This is, let's see, our great niece, I guess it would be, playing with the Play-Doh. She's 3. And of course, all the bigger cousins playing with her. And there's a picture in there of me and my daughter Maggie, who would be on my left, and my niece Sarah, who is on my right, and we were having just as much fun with the Play-Doh too. So that was great fun. And then Maggie, who is extremely organized, very much unlike her mother. We get everybody gone, we get all the mess cleaned up, and Maggie says, "Now let's bring down the Christmas and start putting it up." And her rationale between, she's in grad school, and so her rationale would be that I wouldn't have to do it because I did so much work, you know, to get ready for Thanksgiving, that I wouldn't have to do this by myself. And that when she came home after exams, that it would all be done and she'd be walking into a beautifully decorated Christmas house. And she orchestrated all 5 of us because my son was home too. Oh, I don't know if you've ever seen a picture of my oldest son. Well, let me insert one here. And she got everything up except for our frou-frou tree. Well, actually, the tree is up with the lights lit. The problem is I have to decorate it, but the frou-frou tree in there is 20 feet tall.
No, it's 15.
I need to get those. We call it the frou-frou tree because it's the ornaments that really don't mean anything. They're just really pretty. And then the one right here is our what we call the family tree. Let's see if you can see it. See it back there? That's the family tree with all the homemade ornaments on it, the ones the kids made when they were little. And while we were putting that one up, I filmed the placing of Mouse Angel and sent it to Aaron. And I'm going to share that with y'all right here. Long, long ago, before Thomas was ever born, we didn't have any money and we didn't have an angel for our tree. So I made Mouse Angel. And we used to argue and fuss, Tyler and Maggie, who was going to be the first to put it on the tree. But now Thomas gets to put it on the tree every year. So put it up. Dun da da!
Oh God.
Yeah, and don't fall into the tree.
Well, that would be depressing.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
How about we just put it right?
No.
No, you have
Her tail. You set her on her tail.
Well, it's kind of hard when the thing is hurting or like sparkly, but
maybe Maggie should do.
she's shorter than me.
All right, you got it there. I'll get it set where it'll stay. Hold on.
Now, the interesting thing about that is that I tend to think of myself as a non-crafty person, craftsy person, and yet apparently I am. I have this history of making things, what with the kids, or in that case, to save money. The angel's dress was leftover lace I had done from something else. The only thing I bought was the felt and the pattern, and that was it. So apparently I'm much more crafty than I think I am. So what is it? Is it craftsy or crafty? I tend to think crafty is the word for like a sneaky sneaker. You know, bless you. Poor Thomas, he's sick. But anyway, and that was way back in 1989. I was pregnant with Tyler at the time. So, yeah, so I've been at this for quite some time and didn't even realize it. Now, I have been working on some knit and crochet things, but I can't show them to you right now. But I have learned another craft, and this is just an old jar that I was practicing on, and I don't know if you can see it or not, but I was doing some glass etching. I think you can sort of see that. It's my initials, MTO. And that is really fun. Essentially, all you need is a waterproof stencil. Okay, they sell some of these. I know I didn't see any when I bought my etching cream, but a little jar of etching cream. And I think I'll have a jar this big, cost about $10 or $11, but will last you your lifetime. You put the stencil on, you dot this on with a brush, you leave it on for about a minute and rinse it off. And when you peel it off, you have etched glass. So when you go in gift shops and you see these glass etched cake plates and all that kind of stuff that cost you, you know, $75 and upwards, this is not difficult. Now, I happen to use my new little silhouette portrait that I bought to use, used contact paper and the portrait and made my stencil here. But, you know, you can buy the stencils. But that's a wonderfully easy craft. The challenge is just, you know, getting it on straight. But I'm really liking that. Oh, wait, I did another one too. This is one of my old, oh, can you see that? This is one of my old casseroles, 2-quart casseroles that I was practicing on. I did not get this on straight, but I put our last name on it because think about it, if somebody has a death in their family or just got home from knee surgery or something, you take food over to them and they always, you know, whose plate is this? If you've ever gotten something, I have to return this, whose is it? Well, you've got your name on it already. Usually I just use disposable containers so they don't have to return it, but that's the concept behind this. And I saw that on Pinterest and whatnot that people are giving these as wedding gifts, but me, I was just practicing. So my sick boy is hungry, so I need to go see about getting him something to eat. And I seem to be an exceptionally chatty today. Long video, sorry about that, but I have more to talk about, so I'll be uploading another video probably tomorrow. Bye!